The rule, not the exception. Murad Merali. That's what we're going to be talking about today on Queendom TV, guys. And let's just say I'm charged up. I have a lot to say. Murad Merali just released another apology video after his previous apology video, after being found for having engaged in race play and homophobic fetishy behavior in the past and being exposed for having this OnlyFans account and all of this stuff. It was a huge scandal. I did make a video which I never posted, which I think it's good that I didn't, because now I'm going to put together everything that I have to say and I'm going to unpack, I'm going to analyze pretty much everything that he said. I've literally written it all down and it's separated all out into points. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, because of course I am a black woman, and for those of you who do not know who Murad Merali is, he is known for being a huge ally for black women, specifically on the show Love Island, which is a very popular, you know, dating show, yada, yada, yada. He was posting a lot of videos about it. And he'd even started to do like this podcasty type thing where he interviewed people that had been on the show, contestants. That's the word you guys are looking for. He'd interviewed contestants and then they would come on and they would talk blah, 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 blah. And as I said, he was known to be like this huge ally towards black women. So a lot of black women on the show felt heard and seen on his platform. So when all of this stuff came out, it was a whole big thing. He made this whole long video basically explaining how this was to do with his childhood trauma, this, that, and the other. We're going to talk about all of this, guys, and this is probably going to be a super long video, and this is probably going to be one of the best, realest, rawest, most truthful videos I'm going to share. And I say that because so much of what we've already been talking about on this channel, so much of the stuff that I already say is all going to be encased into what we're talking about today. And that's why I entitled this The Rule, Not the Exception, because a lot of people are looking at this Murad Merali case like, oh, this is crazy, we can't believe this is the skeletons he had in his closet, yada, 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 this, that, and the other. But I kind of feel like this is more representative of the level to which of the skeletons everybody has in their closet. Now, you might not have been engaging in race play and homophobic acts on OnlyFans, but I personally believe that everybody has things that they don't want to address and reasons they don't want to address them, and those things, the traumas and things they've been through affect them in life in different ways for different reasons. So we're going to talk about all of that today. But before I get into the video, if you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Listen, y'all. Listen, I don't know what YouTube is doing. YouTube is playing with me. Like, literally, usually my subscribers go up at least a couple, so much every week. Recently, my subscribers literally have just plateaued, and then it will go up by like a couple, and then it'll come back down. And it'll go up by a couple, and it'll come back down. And I personally feel that it's YouTube trying to stifle my growth. I really do, because they don't like that you'll grow up, be telling the truth. So guys, even more so than other creators, you need to support my videos. You need to share them, you need to subscribe, you need to hit the like button, you need to write a comment. I don't care if you write gobbledygook in the comment section. I don't care if you write hate comment. Write hate comment, okay? Because people don't want to hear the truth. And some of the stuff I'm going to say in this video, and a lot of the stuff I say on this channel, a lot of you guys who followed me for a long time always say how grateful you are to hear a different perspective and how I put things together in ways you ain't heard before. So to support your girl, share my stuff. Thank you to everybody who does share my stuff. Thank you to my loyal subscribers. Thank you to my loyal commenters and likers. Some of you I know hit that like button before you even watch the video, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that vote of faith, okay? Now, let's get straight into it. Now, I have all of this written out, guys, because I wanted to have written down the points he made, because he said so much that I felt needed unpacking. So if we need to do a part 2, part 3, part 4, we might get there, okay? Because I'm not holding back. I'm not taking my foot off the gas. I'm putting my foot straight into the gas, and I ain't coming back. I am pulling into the fast lane, and I ain't going into the slow lane. That's where we're at today. That's the energy we on. So if you're feeling the vibe and you want to join the tribe, you better hit that subscribe, and let's get straight into this. Okay, guys, so run with me here. I need you guys to run with me. Those of you guys who are on my channel, you know that you can't just get upset about something I say, because I'll warn you now. Pre-warning, disclaimer, whatever you will need, right? I say stuff, it's probably going to initially make you think, oh my gosh, she's lost it. Oh my gosh, I don't want to listen. But just hear me out to the end. Let me paint the picture. Let me be the artist, and you watch my work come together. You know what I mean? Let's get into it. So he starts off by saying, and this is his apology that came out 10 hours ago when I just seen it. I literally saw it, watched it again, take notes, and I'm now filming. So this video is probably going to come out within 24 hours of the video actually going up, so you can go and check it out on his channel. I think he might have deleted the previous video that I referenced before. Anywho, haha. So he talks about being that he was in a fragile state of mind. He apologizes for the previous video because he was basically saying that the previous apology he wasn't happy with the previous video, he was in a fragile state of mind and he didn't deal with the situation as best as he could. And he says, I unintentionally weaponized my trauma. I used it as an excuse, and it masked over very important conversations that should have happened. So this is where I already was like, I was already feeling the cringe in my spirit. I was already feeling the cringe in my body. Because I feel like there's this thing that we do in society today where, like, don't get me wrong, I want to make this very clear, plain and simple and clear. And I'll say this as well, just so that those of you who have, like, serious issues with controlling your emotional responses and triggers, which I'm not going to lie, is most of the world right now, to be honest. He did say in his message that he's taking full accountability and that there is no excuse for what he did and for how he reacted in his previous video, which I agree that there is no excuse. He still needs to take accountability. Well, maybe not so much that there's no excuse, but that he still needs to take accountability for his actions and that he's hurt people for what's happened. We'll come back to why I don't necessarily think that there's no excuse thing is a thing, right? So I just want to say that for starters, right? But he says I use it as an excuse and it masked very important conversations that should have happened. This is another example to me of why I do not like society, why I don't like people. Because you see how he has actually been through something traumatic. And we talk about all this mental health, blah, 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 this, that, and the other, right? Because he talked about how he had the stuff that he was doing done to him when he was a child, right? Essentially. So then that made him susceptible, which we'll talk about that in the future part, to doing those things for various reasons, which we're going to come into. So I find it interesting how people completely glazed over his experience and were solely focused on how what he was doing was affecting them. And this is why I always say that society people are not inherently selfless. They're inherently selfish. They mostly more than likely care about themselves more than they care about you. And I get it. The most average person that you see, you're not going to care about them more than you care about yourself, right? This is why you have family, and family and things are the people that you do everything for, unless you have a twisted family. And of course, we don't need to get into all of that, but you guys get the gist of what I'm saying. So for me, I found it interesting that as much as, yes, he is accountable to the way how his actions affect others, and he should hold himself to an account, it's just interesting how quick those same people who were begging for accountability so that they could nurse their wounds that were inflicted by him were so quick to ignore the wounds that were inflicted onto him. And then we call ourselves this mental health blah 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 society, and that's why I don't believe that's real. I think realistically it's just everybody's selfish and everybody wants to be the biggest victim and everybody wants to look at themselves and have a reason, oh, this is all about me. Like, because I'm not gonna lie, yes, what he did was wrong in my personal opinion. What he did, was wrong. And I'm going to get into why we as society have encouraged the things that we do and have allowed for what he was doing to even be a thing in the first place, the way that we look at stuff. So we're going to talk about that. But I'm annoyed that people, in the same breath of people saying that it masked a very important conversation that should have been had, I agreed, because I felt like that as well, that there was an important conversation that should have been had as to why what he did was unacceptable. But the other important conversation was also about why he went through what he went through in the first place to even open him up to what he was doing, and why what he was doing was so normal for what he experienced. Because some of the details you guys are going to hear about what happened, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. He then goes on to say he missed the opportunity for him to sit there and actually just sit and discuss him engaging in race play when he was younger. So that's true. I agree with that. It would have been more helpful for people to have heard. And I don't think people wanted to hear. I think people were upset because, let's be honest, guys, I told you guys I'm on the fast lane today and I'm on fire. So if you ain't ready for the truth, you better exit the building right now. You better exit the building, because you're not going to like this video. Because here's the thing, right? He says people a lot of the time, when somebody says something that you don't like, this is what I'm saying, if you're not ready for the truth, exit the building. Sometimes when you are so triggered by something because of what you've been through, right? And I can say this because I'm a black woman. So when I saw this, I was somebody who felt a lot of emotions initially about this. I'm thinking, what do you mean you've been engaging in race play? You've been supposed to be the ally of black women. Now, I never trusted his intentions behind that, but now I understand where it all comes from because he explains it, which we'll get into, right? But I'm like, so how are you going to be this ally and in secret this is what you were doing? So I also, it's not like I'm not a human being, I also experienced that. But what people do is when they have that feeling, they project the fault of that feeling onto the other person, when in reality that feeling you're having is more than likely due to your own personal trauma of stuff that you have been through. It's probably not because of what they're doing, because had you not been through what you've been through, that thing wouldn't bother you as much. That's why a lot of stuff that people get upset about online to do with black people or women and stuff, do you know why that doesn't bother me as much as a lot of people? Because I've really dealt with done a lot of healing from a lot of trauma. So when things happen, does it upset me to some extent? Of course, because I'm still affected in that category, but my wounds are not so great and so unhealed that as soon as that subject comes up, I'm triggered to the point of like losing all sense of logical thinking, which is what ends up happening with people, which is why I don't believe people were prepared to have the conversation he thinks people were prepared to have. I think he would have been burnt on the stake, to be honest, if he tried to explain himself, because as soon as he tried to explain how things even developed, and I've noticed this, sometimes when people explain how they got from A to B, and they're not even explaining it for the sake of making an excuse, they're just explaining what happened. They're just explaining a chain of events. People are like, oh, you're just trying to make an excuse, and it's like, no. Maybe they're telling you what happened, which he's going to go on to in a second. So we'll come to that. So anyway, we'll come to that. He says, and he says, yeah, so him engaging in race play when he was younger and actually taking responsibility for his actions. I do agree that he didn't take enough responsibility personally in the previous video. I think for all of us as adults, we have to get to the point where we find the balance. And I actually think this is the hardest part of healing and going on a healing journey, is the balance between taking responsibility and accountability for your actions whilst not ignoring or underplaying or undermining the traumas that you actually went through and the magnitude as to which those things have affected you to be the person who you are today. Because let's be honest, guys, why is everybody going to therapy? I've said this so many times. Everybody's going to therapy. What are they talking about in therapy? Most of the time, childhood trauma. These things, they don't go away. You don't go through something like that. Like science says, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just gets transferred. That's why do you know what I believe? A lot of men, it's like 87% of men, suicides are men. It's because and also I think it's like the top killer of men is like heart attacks, because what do? They take all the energy of their emotions, which they're less emotionally literate, emotionally inclined, or have maybe a lower EQ, if that's even, some people say EQ is not a thing, but you guys get what I mean. And so they bottle a lot of things down, and that energy actually is stored up into their body and it exerts themselves in one way or another. Maybe it comes out through anger, because anger is an emotion. Maybe it comes out through a hypersexuality, sleeping with a lot of women. Maybe it comes through the form of just being completely like what seems distant, but then dying from a heart attack at like 37 years old. Maybe it comes through the form of seeming completely fine and then committing suicide. Maybe it comes through being completely obsessed with proving yourself in this world, and so having to become a CEO and becoming richer and richer and always yearning for a higher level. This is what I'm talking about. These things, they don't go away, right? And maybe that stuff turns into you wanting to take on the power of the person who did those things to you in the first place. That's where I believe a lot of pedophiles and rapists come from. I've said this before. Because they've said it. They've actually said it, that they wanted to do what was done to them because they wanted to take on the role of the perpetrator. The energy, and some people think of this as energy, and science says energy. I think it is energy, but I think you can also interchange that with the spirits that are involved in these things. There is a spiritual thing going on here. So I just want to say that about that. So he said he shifted his blame onto what happened in childhood to his actions as an adult. That is real. I think I might have just already said that. That is real. Your things in your childhood is going to affect you as an adult. That's why you have to deal with it, because if you don't, it's going to be affecting you and it's going to be affecting others, and you're going to be problematic, right? That's why we have to deal with things, because you might be hurting people not even realizing you're hurting them because you haven't dealt with issues. And a lot of people are in that place where you might have been around somebody who maybe wasn't intentionally hurting you, but they were because of the things they hadn't dealt with on the inside, which is why it's important not to keep yourself around just anybody, whoever, all the time, because sometimes you are just people's punching bags, which a lot of people end up doing that. A lot of people who are empathetic, who are sympathetic, end up becoming punching bags for people who have undealt with trauma. Let's be real. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it 100. Anyway, he says being over-sexualized at a young age put him in line to be involved in sex work. So and this is what I've said to you guys all the time, that things that you go through, again, in childhood, they make you more susceptible to certain other things in one way or another, right? So like if you grew up and your dad used to beat up your mom, you're going to be more susceptible to want to be involved with something where you can exert brute force, right? If you grew up you know, being over sexualized, you're gonna be more susceptible to hypersexualization in adulthood. I think that's where a lot of people find their sex issues that they have in life. It stems from these types of issues, whether people want to admit it or not. And by the way, guys, I want to say this, I'm not talking about this stuff to try and like make people feel bad. I'm talking about this stuff so people can get real healing, real actual healing that's going to free you in life to be the healthy version of yourself, to create healthy boundaries and to live a good life. That's why I'm talking about this stuff, guys. It's not about trying to make people feel bad. It's so that if you feel like some of the things I'm saying are truthful to you, and you can think about stuff that you've gone through and you can see some ways of what's going on, hopefully this can help you to start going onto the path of like real actual healing. You know what I mean? Or can help you pinpoint where some of the issues you're facing, some of the mental health problems you're having, pinpoint the root cause of those things. So anyways, he goes, coming back from his background and descent. This is where we start to pivot a little bit. Coming back from his background and descent, he ended up being hyper fetishized by people around him. He began to engage in race play. I'm almost tempted. I think we're going to make this a part 2. So I'm going to do this in sections. We're going to go into part 2 now and discuss this racial element and just this whole idea of fetishes and stuff, because I have a lot to say about this. So if you guys have enjoyed this, please do not forget to hit the comment section, hit the like button. Let me know your thoughts so far in the comment section. Don't forget to like the video and make sure you watch through to part 2. I'm going to try and put these all in a playlist so you can just hit the playlist and watch all the way through. Other than that, guys, that's all I'm going to say for now, because I feel like this next section, and I don't want to make the video long because I know people don't like long videos, okay? I know that. Anyways, guys, I'll see you in the next video. God bless.